Hi everyone, Steve and Nate back again for another episode of This Disc is Great with Steve and Nate. We're not our usual time, had some difficulty getting video edited in time. We will be back on Wednesdays at 5 from here on out is the plan. Might have some more technical difficulties, but we'll wait a couple minutes for people to join. But this week, Steve, what are we doing this week?
We got two new discs that we tossed. We got Dynamic Discs, came out with their overstable putter called the Slammer. And then we also have an overstable putter from Innova, which is the Aviar3.
We'll get a little bit more into them in just a second, but we'll let some people join. Steve, how's your week of golf been?
Well, it's been good. Weather's been really nice. It rained one day or two really hard, but then after that, it's been sunny. The leaves are all on the trees now, so we got tons of shade at the park. It's been good.
So tell us about your first non-Omaha tournament experience.
All right. We went down to Kansas City, and we played City of Fountains. We played two of the longest courses that I've played ever.
Blue Valley, when it's set in its full long position, is the longest course in the world.
Really?
It's not. It wasn't. It's probably only at like its 9,000 feet position as opposed to its 12,000 foot position, but it's stupid long.
I've never had to throw two bomb drives to get on one hole. So I was definitely
Or three.
Yeah, I was definitely not trained up enough in like throwing in this kind of tallish grass that they had out there. So, you know, my second drive was usually the less good drive off them. But learning experience, I had a good time. I got to meet a bunch of really cool guys. Everyone's super friendly out there, so
yeah,
it wasn't as bad.
Disc golfers usually.
Yeah, I was happy. It was just, hey, what's up? Come throw some plastic with us.
All right, before we get into our disc golf review for the week, for you Ultimate guys who are having to watch the video, we got a couple of new things to talk about. Steve, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Speak Up Tour and what we are doing in partnership with them?
Yeah, so Speak Up is started by ERIC, which is Early Recognition is Critical. This is
Eric.
This is a program helping raise awareness for cancer. Basically, you invite those people over to your school, your location. You get all the stuff needed to play. They'll teach you a little bit about it as well. And right now, 75% of the money made through our store, through any other kind of situation, is going back to this program. So support it, support us, support it. We're making sure that we have that early recognition.
Yeah, so
what do you have for sale?
Eric is all about body awareness, teaching Ultimate, but also knowing your body and noticing when something's wrong and speaking up so that can get fixed if it's cancer or anything else. But yeah, we have the Speak Up discs and some sweet Speak Up mugs that we just got in.
Jerseys.
You can also get jerseys on our website. So all of that is for sale. All goes to help Eric do what they do. And 75% of all your purchases go directly to Eric. Let you get a nice close-up of this mug. Get that out of the way. Also, we've got some new Frisbees. Well, we have some new discs, sorry. This is our Polynesian stamp that Evan, our art guy, just came up with, I believe. Let you hold one of those, I can't hold them all. 3 different colors. Are these still half price, Evan?
Yep.
These are
Sunday.
half price through Sunday. Sweet new stamp. Check them out. You can't beat that price. That's a stock stamp price with a really sweet custom stamp. Nice. I hadn't seen that they were like vintage worn. That's cool. So yeah, you guys complain about us not doing enough Ultimate stuff. Here's some Ultimate stuff for you guys.
Ultimate.
Check these guys out. All right, let's get started. We have this is episode 8 of This Disc is Great with Steve and Nate. Again, we'll be back to Wednesdays at 5 after this week, but we're doing the Dynamic Disc Slammer and the Innova Aviar3. Steve, what plastics do we have these available in?
The Slammer, that comes in the Classic and the Classic Blend, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so
And this
then
is a first-run Classic Blend Slammer. These you can't find these anywhere anymore. So if somebody is going to win one of these, which we forgot to mention, if you want to like, comment, or share this video, you'll be entered to win one of these 3 discs that we're holding up. Ignore the dinosaur in the background. Somebody who asks us a question will win these discs. So ask us a question about the Slammer, the Aviar3, or disc golf in general. We'll try to answer it either now or later. So what plastics do we have the Aviar3 available in?
Aviar3, this already is out with Star and the DX plastic. So I'd be interested to see if they'll do a Champion or maybe like a G-Star. That'd be pretty cool. But so far, Star and DX.
They probably eventually will. And you may have seen some Fusion or some Moonshine Slammers floating around. Those have been available for a couple of tournament players packs and some CFR stuff, but they aren't available for retailers yet. They're probably coming, but it'll be a minute. So those are the 2 discs we've got to review. Let's take a moment to mention UDisc again. They're our pseudo sponsor for This Disc is Great with Steve and Nate. We do all of the measuring of our throws with the UDisc app. So that's the numbers you see are straight from UDisc. It's GPS measuring. It's a great service. I like that part a lot. They do scorecards, course finding, a bunch of cool features. The Pro is like $5 a year, 100% worth it. Check them out. All right, so Steve, you have tell us a little bit about the Aviar3.
Sure. First off, numbers on it, just 3, 2, 0, and 2. Innova, they decided to put a little statement out on their website. They're like, the Aviar3 is the same comfortable grip you'd get from a normal Aviar. This one just has a distinctive flat top. And the hand, you can feel, you can really tell that it's flat. It feels fast too. Even better, it can handle that speed. So throw the Aviar3 with power, backhand, forehand, and you can trust it'll drop on target.
Yeah. So it's a modified version of the Aviar, which is the most popular putter in the world. They just flat topped it, which anytime you flat top a slow disc, that you lose some glide and you get a little bit more stability. And so they wanted to make it to where you can torque on it a little bit, so you don't flip it over as much. You can throw it a little harder. Basically, they wanted it to be a driving putter. Consequently, let me tell you a little bit about the Slammer. The Slammer has numbers of speed 2, speed 3, glide 2, turn 0, fade 3. So it's got one more fade than the Aviar3 does. So it's going to be a little more stable, but very similar style disc. Dynamic says, too long for a putt, too short for a full throw. The doubts come creeping in when you are between discs. Slam the door on those negative thoughts. The Slammer by Dynamic Discs is meant for times like this. Feels like a putter, but can be thrown with the power and aggression of a mid without ever thinking about flipping it over. Approaching will now be a walk in the park, get to the basket better, and cast off those loose strokes with the Slammer. So, as you can tell from those descriptions, they're pretty similar use discs. They're for the same purpose. Let's get a look at the difference in the profiles. So you can see the Aviar's got that nice flat top. It doesn't have a bead. It's just a little thicker than the standard Aviar. The Slammer has a little bit different rim. It's not as smooth. It's got a bead. And it's got the groove track similar to the Caltrop or a Rhino. In fact, it's pretty slammer to a Rhino. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Evan, we got any questions before we dive too much
We've got a few
in?
comments, yeah. We've got a lot of slammer jokes, but Matthew Jackson says Nate is an awesome guy. He found my disc in a reservoir last weekend and texted me.
Nice.
So, good job.
I have your disc on the desk. Come by and get it.
People, always want to know the stats, but we already showed those numbers. So if you're ahead or behind us, you'll find out the numbers soon. Let's see. Are they going to make G-Star Aviar3 was a question.
Potentially. That's probably one of the last plastics it'll go to. You probably won't see that till next winter.
Would the Aviar3 be a good replacement for a P2?
So far, the Aviar3 has been well more overstable than any P2 I've seen. I would say if you need something that's a little more beefy, that would be it. But to replace it, I don't think so.
It's going to fill a similar slot. Like, it is a little beefier than a P2, but most people are using their P2s as a driving putter. So there's not a whole lot of reason to have both, but it could take that place if it's doing the job a little bit better than a P2 will. I think Macbeth actually replaced his P2 with some Aviar3s.
Nathan Guthrie is asking how comparable is the Slammer to the Zone?
If I was going to replace my Zone, it would be with the Slammer. I've tried the Harp, I've tried a couple of other things, and they weren't quite as stable as my Zone. This is really close.
Can you show a profile comparison between the Slammer and a Rhino? Been looking for something by DD similar to the Rhino.
Let's see. Rhino should be right behind you, Evan. It's going to be a... Yep, that'll work. So it looks like...
It's a little lower. There
Yeah.
we go.
Looks like the Rhino is just a little shallower. The Slammer's just a little deeper. And the bead is a little more defined. And the groove track might be a little farther into the flight plate. But pretty similar. And the Rhino's numbers are 2103, and this is 3203. So fairly similar flight numbers. This is just a little faster. So you might be able to get a little farther out of it. All right, we got anything more? We want to see some footage. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our videos. Evan, you want to
Yep, ready
come
to go.
in and
Let's do it.
take a look?
I was trying to get some customer Facebook Live questions going on. But
All right, so let's see what our first video clip should be. All right, so this is a full power throw with the Slammer. All right, so I threw it full power, fairly flat, came up, flew out, turned just a slight bit, but really solidly crashed out. It's not going to turn over on you. You'll see me crank it over pretty hard in a minute, but it's really solid fade. Like, it's going to dump out pretty hard. First couple of throws we had with it, we tried to throw hyzers and they just didn't go anywhere. So you got to put a little stank on it. But UDIS distance of 273 for an approach disc, I don't think I need anything more than that, especially on something this stable. That's full power, getting a real good rip on it, and again, still really solidly crashing out. This is Steve throwing the Aviar3 somewhat similarly. All right, Steve, what do you think about that throw?
Yeah, I was really mashing on that. Nice big hyzer. It came out of the hand nice and clean. And the fact it didn't work at all to the left, that's just straight up, and then it has a nice hyzer out. So if you're looking for something that's not going to go way past your intended target, but you need something just rip on it, hey man, these are some pretty good options.
let me ask a question right now, since we're in the middle. Joey Stevens is wanting to know what the wind was like on these throws when you guys were out there.
Non-existent. No wind at all when we were throwing this day. And I will say one thing, the grass here is kind of tall, so you're not going to see a lot of skip. That doesn't mean that these discs don't skip. Nothing was going to skip in this tall and soft grass as we had that day. But Steve, throwing both of these discs on a full power shot, what would you say the difference is?
I definitely could feel the thumb track on the Slammer. It kind of made me hold the disc a different way. But I would say the Slammer did have a little less fade, or a little more fade, and really crashed out on me.
Yeah. I think for me, the Aviar3, when I throw it hard, it's got a little bit of flip up. It'll flip up to straight. Definitely not flip up to turn, but it flips up to straight and then fades out. The Slammer, for it to go flat at all, I have to throw it flat. The Aviar's got a little bit more. It is a little less stable, like it should be, but they both do solidly fade out. And the Aviar, this 289 is a pretty good crank for the Aviar3 because I couldn't get that sucker to glide at all. Which is, if you're on approach disc, that's kind of what you want. You don't want to sail too far past the basket. You want it to drop consistently where it's at. So that's the difference I noticed in them. Let's do it. Now these are approach discs, so you're probably going to do a lot more standstill shots with these. That's what we want to check out next. All right, so this is the slammer on a pretty hard anhyzer angle. So I threw it about like this, comes out of my hand, works back out of it, and it ends up pretty straight. So you know it's a stable disc if I'm throwing it on that much of an anhyzer and it ends straight. Like on a normal putter, that's going to end up way over here. About 187, which is about what I was aiming for. I was aiming at the 200-foot cone, so I put it within like 15 feet of that cone. Pretty reliable. You know what it's going to do. You put it on the line. Same kind of shot I throw with my zone. I like it a lot. This is the Aviar3. We get a fairly similar flight path, and I threw that just a little bit anti. It didn't pop up quite like I wanted it to, but on that little bit of a, not an anti, it's on a hyzer. On that little bit of a hyzer, holds that hyzer all the way through. I haven't flipped the Aviar3 over without doing it on purpose yet. 180 again, kind of what I'm looking for in that range. Yeah. Let's see how Steve does his standstills.
Just really lacing it out there. I probably should have thrown that a little more flat, a little less hyzer, but for it to travel that far in a straight and then just really fade out at the end, this disc is going to be a great approach disc for almost anyone. Just if you can get it to go out and then know it's going to fall out of the sky and really get down to your target, these are the ones to go for.
And the slammer in particular, like you can see that big hook on it. If you're in the woods, or if you have somewhere you've got obstacles or OB you have to avoid, you can lace this out and know it's going to come back. You can use it to maneuver around some things. Same thing kind of shots I do with my zone, where I put it on angles to get around things and know it's going to crash back. You can do that with this disc. With the straighter putter, it does one thing, it goes straight. It's harder to get those nice angles worked as hard. And again, 190, that's what you're wanting out of an approach disc. You're not trying to mash it.
So, a couple questions.
Yeah.
Joey Stevens says, which one is more likely to land flat or flatter consistently? Is that a thing?
I would say depending on what shot you're doing is when you're going to find, like a putter, unless you throw it on a big spike, it's not going to land like a Firebird or like a Felon, like just straight up crashing. So the flatter you throw it, the longer distance, it's going to have that opportunity to turn over, but 200 feet, unless you're throwing on a pure hyzer, it's not going to sit and crash like that.
For me, it's definitely the Aviar3. Like I can throw the Aviar flatter and it'll hold that flat line longer. The slammer's definitely wanting to hyzer out, so it's going to hit on that same kind of an angle like the Justice and skip a little bit. So the Aviar3 I can get flatter.
So Garrett Wheeler's asking, so the Aviar has less fade, question mark? Which one has less fade?
Yes.
Aviar3.
Aviar3 has one number less fade according to numbers, and according to the proof,
yep,
it is one less, less fade.
Steve is going to throw the Aviar3 on almost the exact same angle he did the slammer, so let's look at the difference. So you can see that's actually even a little more hyzer. It goes out farther wide before it crashes back, and he hit that straight in the line we were aiming for. So Steve had a little more control with the Aviar. I had a little more control with the slammer, mostly because I throw a zone, and it's what I'm used to.
I tried to throw it farther though.
Yeah. Yeah, you were a little. Yeah, I cut out the part of the video where you're like, dang it. But yeah, that's what you want. I mean, Steve's been throwing the Aviar3 in his rounds a lot, and it's been helping his approach game a lot. So, before you guys ask, flicks. I'll show you a couple flick shots. So I struggle with my approach flicks, torquing them over too much, throwing them too hard. Like any other stable putters, I'm cranking over and ending up burning out and throwing a roller. Both of these I had a lot more control with, throwing it decently hard. So the slammer, again, I threw on a little bit of an anhyzer angle. It held that anhyzer and crashed out right at the end. Super reliable, 182. That's what I want in an approach flick. About the same as my backhand even. And the Aviar3, pretty much a similar result, but I had to throw a little more hyzer. So it's got a little bit of flip up and rode straight and then hyzered out at the end. Really reliable. Again, the Slammer just a bit more overstable. The Aviar3 a bit straighter, but the same kind of style of disc, same kind of flight pattern. Any other questions? Should we talk about plastic types a little bit?
How do they compare with a Pure?
Pure. I've not personally thrown a Pure a whole lot. Steve, have you? I do think I'm going to grab an Opto Pure that should be top shelf back there. That's got a
White.
white
It's
one.
white, straight up.
It's got a fairly similar profile to the Aviar3, and I think it has pretty similar numbers. So I'm going to assume that the Aviar3 is fairly close to a Pure. I know a lot of my friends throw it as a stable driving putter, so I'd say those two are probably pretty comparable.
Let's see. Brian is asking the Slammer what kinds of plastic.
So currently, retailer-wise, it comes in Classic Blend and Classic. So Classic is the more firm, solid, no give to it. Blend has a little bit, it's more like, Blend is really close to medium from West Side or Latitude. So it's got a little bit more give, a little bit more tackiness. It's going to stick a little better on the ground. But as far as flight, those two plastics are going to be very, very close. There are some Moonshine ones floating around that are CFR only, and I expect those to come out eventually. They might have even more beef, don't beat up as much. The Aviar3 comes in Star and DX right now, and I took this DX guy out and threw it next to the Star one yesterday morning. The DX is a little less stable. I was able to do what I actually wanted to do with it. Like I could throw it on a hyzer, pop it up the flat, and then it slowly rode out. It's got that stability still, but it's a little bit more controllable for me and had just a touch more glide. So I was getting maybe 10, 15 feet farther out of the Slammer, out of the DX than I was the Star.
Frank Bennett is asking, he needs one for an upshot. Which one should he use? Which one has more glide?
Neither of them have a ton of glide. They're very similar discs. Both of these are great upshot discs. It kind of just depends on your style of throw. I like the Slammer a little better, but that's because I like throwing the little Annie putter shots like I do with my Zone, so I can throw it on an Annie and watch it crash out. Steve, I know, is preferring the Aviar3. You want to tell us why?
Yeah. I've been throwing my regular putters. I putt with PA3, and that glide is just... I was surprised with how little glide this has, but then I'm able to throw it as hard as I need and know it's going to sit next to the basket. My PA3s, they like to stay in the air for a long time, and then if I hit the ground, I don't know if it's going to roll or not. So this is just taking a lot of those elements out of play, knowing that it can sit down next to the basket, and then I can just take my easy tap in.
And Steve is having trouble flipping over his PA3s a lot too. Steve likes to throw on a hyzer and flip it up flat, which this disc does really well for him. A little more controllable. It's not turning over like his PA3s tended to do sometimes. And again, it doesn't have a ton of glide, but you want it to drop by the basket. You don't want it to sail 60 feet past.
Nope.
And for me, this Slammer's got, again, I like to throw it on those Annie lines and let it do its work.
I would say if I had to pick, I would say I would throw the Aviar3 as a backhand upshot, and I would take the Slammer as my forehand because it just has that little bit more overstability.
I would agree.
And I like that. Like I've got a Buzz OS that I'll flick, but that would be the putter version of that stable disc that I need.
All right.
Everyone want to give some of these away at some point?
Let's do. Let's give the Slammer. We're going to give the Slammer now. What are the numbers again on this guy?
The numbers on the Slammer are 3203.
That is a classic.
This is a classic blend first run Slammer.
Okay. This classic blend first run Slammer is going to Shane Russell. Shane Russell, thanks for your question. I'm going to ask it here, and yeah, you guys can tell me what you know about it. How does a round bead compare to a flat bead like the polecat or Paltrow?
I wouldn't say the polecat's necessarily beaded, but It's a little flat on the edges. So this has like, this is pretty straight. It's basically like a glorified Folgers can lid. Which some people like, and you can rest your finger on that, on the edge. But the round bead gives you a little bit more just, how's it going, Fletch? A little bit more place to rest your finger on. It feels really different. The beveled edge makes it fly and glide a little better, but definitely a very different feeling disc.
All right, Shane Russell, congrats on winning the first run slammer. Go ahead and message us here on Facebook, or you can email us at service@discstore.com to claim your prize, and we'll get that out to you very soon. Guys, we're going to have one more giveaway. Two more giveaways. Hello. So, how are we going to do 2 more giveaways? What do you
However
want to do?
you want. We got any more questions?
We're doing the air. No. That's too expensive.
So, Josh Wagner has a question. What's the difference in a flat top versus a round top, an oval top is what it says?
Yep. So,
A dome.
So the flatter you have the disc, the less kind of ability the disc has to push the air out of the way. Is the idea. Like a plane, the way a plane's wing is shaped, it actually allows the disc to stay in the air. But the flatter it is, that wind just goes straight on top, if not almost pushing down on it. So it's really, the flatter the slow disc is, the more overstable it's going to be.
Less glide it's going to have. Like anything from like a Firebird on down, flat is going to make it more overstable, less glide. So the dome allows more air to get underneath it too, and so that helps it stay up. Now for some physics reasons I don't quite understand, if you get to like a destroyer or anything super fast, flat is going to turn over more because you can get more spin on it, and domier is going to be more stable. Again, I don't quite understand the physics behind that, but it works, trust me.
Okay. Let's see, we got a lot of comments here. Sorry. I use a suspect for my upshots. How would the slammer compare to it? Does the slammer have a skip at the finish? And that question's from Tim Petty.
The slammer is what I wanted the suspect to be when it came out. When the suspect came out, I wanted it to replace my zone, but it's just a little too straight. It has a little more glide and not as much beef at the end as I wanted it to. It's still a great disc, it just didn't fit the hole I was wanting it to fill. And the slammer is the disc that I wanted it to be. It's got more overstability and a little less glide. It flies like a zone.
I would say skip-wise, it really just depends on what surface it's hitting, and the speed and angle you're hitting it at. You know, you downhill onto a dirt landing, yeah, you're probably going to get a sweet skip or a really big slide. But, you know, at the same time, you could throw it and just have it kind of float down. You throw it on that ante and just have it drop. That would allow it to sit. But
that's going to depend too on, like, I don't think this blend is going to skip a ton. But when we get like Moonshine or Lucid or Fusion, that might skip a little more.
That's got a good grip.
So let's give something to Tim Petty. What are we going to give Tim for that question?
How about this DX Aviar3?
DX Aviar3. Tim Petty, congrats on winning this. Go ahead and message us on Facebook to claim your prize, or you can email us at service@discstore.com. So thanks for commenting. And then let's tell people what the next prize is. We're getting a lot more people jumping on, so it's getting closer to the end of the day. So what are we giving away, and how do they do it?
Our third and final giveaway, you can be the lucky owner of a Star Aviar3. 175 gram.
Yep.
All I need you to do is like, comment, preferably comment, say, hey, I like Nate's hat, or hey, thanks for doing the show, or hey, I was really interested in how to get this disc to stay on an ante line. How do I do that?
And so you guys know, we're throwing everything we throw in the videos is as close to 175 as we can get it, just for some consistency. That way you see what a max weight disc does. If you want something that turns a little more, like if we throw a 165 Aviar3, it probably is going to pop up the way I wanted it to. And some other things like that. So both these are great upshot discs. While Evan's finding us a winner, let's do a quick review on some of the other Ultimate things we got going for you Ultimate players out there. This is our brand new Polynesian stamp Ultra Stars. Some sweet colors. These guys are $7.89 or something like that. Something really close to that. $7.45 on the website. Great price on a sweet looking stamp. Check that out. Steve, you want to run us back by what Speak Up is and why we're helping them out?
Yeah. Speak Up is a program run by Eric, which is early recognition is critical. This is a cancer awareness. They do almost like tournament settings. They bring you, show you how to play Ultimate. They play Ultimate with you. And right now, 75% of the proceeds will be going to this program. So
discs, mugs, jerseys, all goes to help getting kids active and helping kids recognize cancer symptoms so that they can get the help that they need.
All right, guys, I got the winner. So, Steve, what is the prize?
this is the Star Aviar3.
All right, the Star Aviar3 is going out to Thomas Rotter. Thomas Rotter, thanks for commenting. His question is, he's not advanced enough to understand anything you guys are saying, but he's learning some stuff, I think. So thanks, Thomas. We love to talk to everyone. If you're an Ultimate player, disc golf, if you're advanced, if you're new. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. You continue to comment even after the video is not live, and they will Steve and Nate will get on there and answer your questions.
You
So
can't
Thomas,
win this once it's not live, but you can still ask us questions.
so Thomas, go ahead and message us on Facebook to claim your prize, Thomas Rotter, or you can email us at service@discstore.com.
All right, guys, keep posted. I think next week is either going to be the fighter and the criminal, or we might do the Latitude 64 overmold stuff. We'll make that decision once we get out and do some throwing. But we're going to go do another field session right now to get some more footage.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for showing, guys.
See you guys next week, Wednesday at 5.